Welcome everybody to Dad's Going Solo on the WGSN-DB Going Bold Network. My name is Adam Ford. With me I have Cece, our amazing producer and person who wears many hats in our lives. And my amazing fiance, Jacqueline Metzger.
Hello.
Today we will be talking about some having difficult or tough conversations with your kids. That has become very relevant recently in my life. And I took a couple weeks to kind of get through a lot of different things and then wanted to come on and do this show. So as far as having difficult conversations, I mean, there's many topics that are hard to have a conversation with your child about, depending on their age. My child's 4, going to be 5, so the topics are many that are difficult to have with a 4 or 5-year-old. But even as they grow up and become teenagers, even adults, it's still difficult to have certain conversations with your child. Cece, have you had any difficult conversations with your children in the past?
Oh yeah, because my kids are pretty much grown now. And
Yeah.
We've had many difficult conversations.
Yeah.
On a lot of different subjects. Yeah. But, the hardest is, really trying to, when you have a death in the family or you have something like that, those are really hard conversations to have. Or when you're divorcing and, you're splitting up, it's always about the loss, isn't it? So
absolutely,
those are very hard conversations to have. So
so for us, more recently, we've had to sit down and have a conversation with Demarius regarding his biological mother, because she had a bunch of different health issues and ended up passing away about a month ago. And trying to tell a 4-year-old child that is
hard
and heartbreaking and very difficult. Luckily for me, I had, support of my family. I had her support to help me out tremendously. And it proved to be a very difficult conversation to sit there and say, your mom is gone. And I don't know. It was just.
But also how they're going to interpret it or not, because he's so young that I feel like he doesn't totally understand, but it's hard. It's also hard to tell. So it's hard to know how to help and how to be there other than just being there, because he doesn't really say anything, because I don't think he does fully understand. So that's just hard. And it's hard to actually sit any child down and say your biological mom or dad or anybody in the family, but especially your mom and dad, passed away. So that was very hard.
Absolutely. Having the way I had to come and structure that conversation is it wasn't really even trying to get him to sit down and listen, or what. It was psyching myself up to have that conversation. I feel like for parents, it's harder for us in our minds to have that conversation beforehand and what it's going to look like than it really is to sit down and have the conversation. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
It was probably more difficult for you, to be able to talk about it, because number one, you've had a relationship, for many years. And so you're familiar with that. For him, he doesn't really understand. And then there was some, parting of being divorced. And so he's already felt that loss of that separation. So he's already dealt with that. And, but for you to sit down and try to explain that, not coming back, something that's not, and I guess we always say heaven, they're in
Yeah,
heaven.
exactly.
So we use that, it's like, and the kids is like, well, where is that?
Exactly.
Let's
Exactly.
go visit,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we can't do that,
Let's
but
go tomorrow.
So yeah.
I think that was the first time I cried in a long time, when I had to sit down and have that conversation with him and just see like his reaction and make sure that he was okay at first, but then also had to like backpedal afterwards, be like, do you understand what I'm like? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
do we need to talk about this more? What do you need from me? And for a 4-year-old, it's just like, he doesn't know what he needs from me. Like at this point, he's just like, okay, like
he knows he
all
needs
right.
waffles, and that's it.
He loves waffles. Waffles are great.
I need a waffle, Dad.
Exactly. But like having the conversation like that with a passing the family, that was extremely difficult for me, for both of us to really have to sit down and see his reaction. And we still have to make sure we still check on him every other day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
hey, how are you feeling?
Just
How are
keeping
you
an
doing? And making sure he's not dealing with it but not dealing with it.
Yeah.
As a kid. And then I feel like there's a lot of different conversations that us as parents have to have that are difficult. He's to the stage where anything you say, it doesn't matter what it is, the question back is why.
Yeah.
And sometimes the answer to that question, I don't want to get into with my 4-year-old, like, because it's the answer. You'll understand when I'm older, and that's what I mean. I heard that when I was younger a lot.
Yeah,
and
we'll talk about it later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you have to go. His newest thing is like, oh, we'll talk about it later when you're older. Oh, well, I'm gonna be 5. Okay, yeah, I know, and that doesn't count. But like, yes, like you are gonna be 5. But no, having difficult conversations and having to go into those conversations, in my opinion, you have to go in with honesty with a child. You can't lie. You have to put it out there so they know, and then continue to let them know that you're there for them, regardless of what this situation is, either a death in the family, a divorce, or a breakup, or any kind of loss is really hard to interpret to a child, because they don't necessarily know loss very well. And
I feel like it's different for each parent too, or each individual, because like for me, where I stepped in as a step parent, I want to check on him, but I also don't want to overstep or upset him, with asking him about her, if he's okay or if he has feelings about it. Whereas like Adam, he can go up to him and be like, just tell me how you feel, and like he's been with him this whole time. It's his father, he has a very strong connection with him. And so I think it's a little easier for him to have certain tough conversations, in a sense where he's a little bit more open with him, because that's his daddy. So I think it's tough, not just for the parents, but even like your mom.
Oh yeah.
Having to have those conversations like the day after when he brings it up, and how to go about it and what to say. And it is hard. It's hard to know what to say sometimes.
Well, especially because you can't just be blunt about it. You have to have some kind of softness to you with a child, but then also having this extremely important and extremely relevant thing to have to bring up that you feel like you have to say. It's difficult. It's difficult.
Oh, and then you can only give them enough information that they can digest, at their age. So it really does depend on the age. And I will share with you, and I hadn't told you this story because there's been I have a lot of stories in my life. But when I was young, very close to my grandfather, and he always ate his dessert, at the beginning of the meal. right? You know, he always wanted to eat his dessert. He ate dessert for lunch, and he had dessert for dinner, you know, not breakfast, but he did have dessert. And at lunchtime, I remember we were sitting at the table and he was having his dessert and we were laughing and joking. And then all of a sudden, bam, he fell over just instantly. And he died right then. I'm just sitting right next to him. And I'm just a little girl. And I'm thinking, oh, what happened? Oh, he fell, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, something, you know, he's sick or something like that. And of course, I get shuttled out of the room. Yeah. And then, you know, there's all this commotion and all this stuff that's happening. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm upset, you know, because I'm just a little kid. And then my mother had to tell me that my grandfather died.
Right there, like,
I didn't understand. It's like, well, he was just having dessert, and so after that, I didn't want to have dessert for a long time because I
don't blame you.
Killed him.
Yeah,
if I eat this dessert, I'm going down too.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I remember asking her questions about, like, she'd say, well, he went to heaven. You know, he's not going to be with us anymore. He decided to go to heaven. She would say things like that, and I said, well, where is heaven? You know, let's visit, let's do, you know, and I was always kind of a logical kid. And so then finally, because I was so inquisitive about heaven, she took me outside and she said, look at the clouds, and that's where heaven is. And so when you look up there, he's sitting on one of those clouds. And so I remember when I was a kid, I'd lay down and I'd look up and try to see if I could see him. I could never see him, you know, but I really thought that that's where heaven was on those clouds until I got older and realized that was a story she told me, and maybe it is there. I don't know, but
exactly.
But it's still comforting though. Like each person, you know, says something a little bit different or explains it a little bit different. And I think for children, especially coming from their loved ones, it is something that's very good until you grow up and you realize that it's a little different, but it's comfort. It's definitely comfort for them.
Well, it's like you need to understand, no matter what age we're at, you have to kind of, in your own mindset, you have to kind of understand what happened, you know. And but that was a pretty crazy thing.
Very abrupt.
And I'll never forget the sound of his landing on the floor. That thud. It was just a boom, and he was. It was amazing. It was shocking.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Especially when you don't realize what's happening too at the time.
Yeah. And then everybody is screaming and carrying on, and you know, and I'm thinking like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
What happened?
It's difficult, but you know, when we talk about any kind of difficult conversations with our kids, I guess, you know, what I was thinking was that, you know, like to start with, we want to make sure that they're in a safe, comfortable, familiar place when we're having these kind of talks, so that they feel secure, you know, when you're starting to talk about these kind of things. It's not like something you'd want to do out in the hallway or, you know, something like that. It's something that you really do want them to feel secure with it. And, you know, and it's not an easy, you know, it's not an easy conversation. Some of the conversations growing up are not easy. I mean, when you're talking about drugs and when you're talking about choosing your friends wisely and when you're talking about all these kind of things. And I will say that I'm not a very nice parent because when we would sometimes have these difficult conversations, I would be in the car and I would lock them in, right? So they can't go anywhere. So they're like stuck. And then I drive around until we would finish the conversation, because you know what happens when they're teenagers, they just shut you off, right? And they want to go somewhere else.
It is. That is.
I need to write that down. Hold on. I need to write that down.
That sounds like something that I would do. I'd be like,
So
well,
they
you
would
can't get
be
out.
like,
You got to talk to me.
Yeah.
They'd be stuck in the car until I was sure that they understood what we were talking about. So
yeah, I mean, it's you have an idea of what you want your child to get out of it in the way, but it almost never goes like that because they're their own person. They, like, especially like younger ages, they're trying to become their own person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they're not going to just immediately act how you want them to act, or like be sad or be happy or be whatever the case may be. They're going to have to process it their own way. And as a parent, that's really hard to have to wait for.
Yeah.
Because it's fear of the unknown, right? Like you don't know how they're going to react. So it's scary for us as parents. It's scary, but it has to be, then you have to put yourself in the kids' shoes and like kind of understanding, but really not understanding and not knowing what to say or how to deal with it. That's scary for them too. So I went through a lot of emotion in the hour-long conversation that I had with him.
So do you think that you were more emotional than he was?
Oh, 100%.
And do you think that your emotions triggered his emotions? Do you think
I didn't show him my emotions?
Yeah.
I did my best to not show him my emotions during that. I did my best to kind of just say what needed to be said, ask him how he was feeling. He did a lot of hugging. He wanted a lot of hugs. So I gave him a lot of hugs, and we let him have a lot of attention. And, just made sure he knew that it's okay to come to either of us and have that conversation or just tell us how he was feeling that day about anything. I think that the cool thing that came out of that conversation was he now knows that if he's feeling any certain way, instead of getting angry and throwing a tantrum or whatever, he will come to us now and say, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling mad, or whatever he's feeling at that time. And then he'll sit down and talk to us about it instead of throwing a fit or crying and running to his room or anything like that. It's more, he now knows that we're here, basically. Like we're here for all of that. And it's more understandable to him now, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a very, especially with the death of a parent, it's a very hard thing to really drive home, but at the same time, you don't want to have to drive that home into a child. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no. And again, it's based on their age and what they're able to understand. But all of these moments, they're actually life-changing moments.
Absolutely.
And so when he gets older, he's going to look back and remember, I remember when my dad told me. I remember how they told me.
Exactly.
And so those are very, very important moments. And the other thing is it's the unity that you show. I think it's important. And those out there that are listening, being divorced and separated, I think when we have tough times like that, when we have to tell our children about a death or some things like that, or even if it is something that's about school or grades or whatever, we need to be unified in what we do. We need to talk ahead of time, come up with a plan of how we're going to approach it, and then be a parent, be parents together and do it. And so, and I will share that often my ex will do a Zoom call, and talk about those issues together. Or we'll do on the phone, and do like a conference kind of call. So that way, my son knows that whatever it is that we decided or however we're approaching it as a family. Yes. And this is a decision that maybe his parents made, that is going to have to be effective.
Exactly.
And so sometimes, that's the case, because so often I think when they're, separated, when you're divorced, the kids will play on parents, right? Play one off the other. And I think the more we can be unified as a family, the stronger I think our children will be as they grow up. And
absolutely.
So you guys are showing that now with both of you together. Being a step parent, you are being accessible to him, and you're showing that you are a family unit. And that you're going to, however difficult the times are, you're going to approach them together. you know.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky that Adam has been very good with that as far as
Mhm.
including me, even in little things. Like if he gets a donut, early in the morning or for a dessert or something, little things. Like we always make sure that we both link up and are saying the same thing and, are in it together. So he knows that it's both of us. And that, I mean, even with, telling us how he feels, same thing. He knows he can come to either one of us and say whatever he needs to say, and we'll be there and we'll listen, and we'll do whatever we can to be there for him continuously. So I think being a step parent is very tough in the way of overstepping. I feel I and maybe it's per person too, but when somebody new comes into your life and you have a child, it's one of those things where I almost was very tiptoey around what I should do, like disciplining, for example, or even like the tough conversations. I would usually leave it up to him, and you kind of feel your way around until you're able to feel like you can do that and be together to do it. And like with him having that tough conversation, he and Demarius stayed, out here, and I went into the bedroom and shut the door so they could have their privacy. And then after we were all done, we all met up as a family. So we were still in it together, but there's certain things that should be able to be just them, that are personal, and, his biological mother. So yeah, it's hard to navigate, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
100%.
And, you're very gracious with that, because some aren't. Some want to be, right in it. And they need to understand that there is a division there. And if you can honor and respect that division, you can be united, within it. And so, you just have to be respectful of each party, that kind of thing. So I know that, my ex is with somebody and has been with somebody for the whole time. And she's very respectful of things that happen. And she doesn't get involved in any of that kind of stuff. Now, she might there on the home front, but with me, she doesn't get involved, or, so I don't have this, argument or fight or whatever, power struggle. I don't have that, So, because I remember one time Harry said something about, he calls her mom. I think he calls her mom too. And I think one time I said, let's make it perfectly clear that I am your only mother.
Yep. That was
Cece laying down the law out here.
That was one thing that
I
was
remember
hard.
I said that. Let's make this perfectly clear.
Yeah. That was one thing that was very hard for me, because I never wanted to overstep at all, and in that way, especially because he knew who his mommy was, because it's his mommy. He's known her since he was born, obviously, and like I let him.
Oh, there he is.
Can you say hi?
Hi.
Say hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. She said, "How are you?"
She said, "How are you?
Okay.
You're okay?
You're okay? You're doing good?
You're doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what we're talking about?
Do you know what
we're talking about?
We're talking about conversations.
We're talking about
Do you know
conversations.
Do you know
with
what
your little one.
conversations are?
Yeah.
Do you know what a conversation is? Not really. It's when you talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Know that too.
You know
I
that
know
too?
that too.
Okay. Okay, he said goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. He says, this sounds pretty boring.
Right.
Exactly.
but yeah, when he, like, I told him that he could call me whatever he wanted. I never expected him to ever say mommy or anything even remotely close to that. And at one point he just started calling me Mommy Jacqueline. So it was a different mommy, but it was still what he felt comfortable with. And I still tell him to this day, same thing, whatever you are comfortable with, because I'm going to be here no matter what. But I want to make sure I'm respecting everybody, not.
And see, and I'm okay with that too. I mean, I'm okay if Harry does that, but as long as I'm the mom.
You're the mom.
Yeah, no.
Yes. I got you.
You're the
I got you.
mom. Yeah.
That's fair. You went through all of the hard work.
Mom.
That's right.
But it's just, and you're going to feel like that, as time goes on, because you're going to have that protectiveness and everything else that the little cub, your little cub type of thing. And yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
you do feel like that. And so as years go on, you're going to be the same. You're going to feel the same way. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's those kind of things. But conversations are not easy. And I always considered myself in your face kind of mom, because, I would get right in their face, and, when you see when they're teenagers, it's tough,
Mhm.
and you gotta be right there and kind of figure out when to be soft and when to be strong,
Yeah.
But I never pulled it, I don't pull any punches. I tell it straight like it is, and
That's how it should be.
That's what you have to do. There's times where you have to be that person.
Yeah.
It will benefit them more in the long run than sugarcoating things or making it seem not as bad as it really is, or
Just be honest with
being
them.
honest is the biggest, and that's the hardest thing for me, is like I had to make a choice whether, like, do I talk to him about this now and just let it be? Hey D, go play, okay? Or do I talk to him about it now and just be completely honest, straight up, and tell him, or do I, not until he asks? Like, and I decided that it was not in anybody's best interest for me to just withhold that information from him.
It's his
Right.
mom.
It's his
He
mom.
deserved to know.
He should. He
No matter
needed to
the
know.
age. Which is
and
hard to determine, but yeah.
As he gets older, he'll still ask questions, and now we are at a point where, as we're able to field those questions, we're able to have that conversation, because we did have a conversation earlier on,
Right.
and we can remind him of that conversation. We can remind him that we're here, and we're here to answer any of his questions as long as he has them.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Right.
no matter when or what it is, we're able to. I feel like it was the first big conversation that I had to have with him
Yeah.
that was of loss and of that importance. So now I feel more comfortable having other conversations with him as time will go on, of sitting him down and be like, look, this is the way things are. This is what we're doing, so on and so forth. I feel like, being, as a parent, honesty is the best policy until, I mean, obviously, like, there's things that we as parents, like, have little things, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, those are different things.
That's different than real life honest
Well,
conversation.
Santa Claus is real, so, like, that's a thing.
That's absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe, you don't receive.
Exactly. He's absolutely.
And
I
to
saw
this
him.
day,
Like,
I still believe.
he's on the beach. It's his vacation. I saw him. He posted on Instagram. It was crazy.
I have to go look at that
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome.
to
You should-
verify.
he tagged me in it. You should check it out.
Okay, I will.
Anyway, so having the conversation is much easier in the long run than not having that conversation. In my opinion, that's what I thought of was, okay, well, down the road, say if I don't tell him now, and then down the road he asks me, he's like, well, why didn't you ever tell me?
Right.
I'm not gonna have an answer for that, So,
Yeah, you have to be honest. I mean, I have two children that are adopted, my first one and my last one. And so, when thinking about, like, how to handle that, I read books and everything, and they just said that you should just, when they're little, you should just say, the word adoption. You should just say that they're adopted. You don't make it a big thing, just say it. So they're familiar with hearing the word. Right. And so that's what we did. And so it was no big thing for them to know that they were adopted, and my other children that I had were not. Right. And so my daughter, she's crazy. I love her so, but she got mad at the boys one time, and she said, well, Mom wanted me. She goes, Mom wanted me. She chose me. They just had to have.
he said, listen, boys.
She was so special, right? She was, I mean, and then I remember saying to my ex-husband, I think maybe we've gone a little bit over the special stuff. Like,
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
we need to calm the special stuff down because she thinks she's pretty special.
Yeah. Oh my
But
gosh,
yeah,
that's
she's,
funny.
I mean, again, it's just being honest about stuff. And there were some tough conversations throughout all of that and understanding, and then you just had to field the questions as they got older. And, and there's also times when we had to decide, no, we're not talking about this because this is not the time. It's not appropriate, knowing that emotionally they can't handle it yet. And so we'll address this another time. And we just have to be straight about that,
Yeah.
So, and they both turned out pretty great. I mean, they're great kids. My daughter's, in her 40s now, and she's doing really well. And I think she's pretty well adjusted and much loved. And yes, she is very special.
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah.
They all are.
Yes. And then my youngest is in college. So, and we had to deal with that, telling him that he wanted to find his birth mother and then finding out that his birth mother had passed,
Oh, yeah.
So that was also very, very, very tough. Yeah. I forgot about taking a commercial because this is such an important subject.
Absolutely.
So we can do that. You guys want to take a quick commercial?
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into more difficult conversations. Also, another difficult conversation that we had to have with Demarius, and we'll keep plugging along and keep going.
Sounds good. So we'll be right back. You guys are listening
right.
to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We'll be right back.
That makes sense.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Adam Ford here with Jacqueline Metzger and Cece Shatz, and we are here talking about tough conversations to have with your child. We've had some tough conversations. Another tough conversation that we had recently was we asked Dee, do you want a brother or a sister at some point?
And that's a happy question.
That's a happy question.
Yeah, it's a happy, tough conversation.
But his answer was that he wants both. So that's a thing.
I was like, try again. Which one? Which one?
Pick one. So yeah, we had that conversation with him, and it's a little bit more of an upbeat conversation, but sometimes it's hard to have that conversation because he's been an only child his entire life. So I didn't know how he's going to react, but he definitely wants a sibling for sure.
And it's tough too, from my perspective, because when we first asked him about it, I was like, he doesn't even want any. He's going to be like, with that lady? Nope. No, thanks. And obviously he's 4.5, but that's where my mind goes. And so I think for, people out there who are newly divorced or who are trying to like bring somebody in to their family and, introduce them to their children and stuff, it can be tough to have really any conversation almost, that's of importance like that, because you're terrified that they're going to say no, or that they don't want you, or they're going to reject you because, you're not their biological parent, what they've known. So that was very tough for me too, because it's a very happy thing, but at the same time, I was very anxious at what he would actually say.
Yeah.
And then he said both, and I was like, okay.
That's
This went
cute.
better than I thought.
Shows you how sweet he is. He's such a sweetheart.
He's so sweet.
He is, and he's brought it up since we've had that conversation. He's brought it up to us
Multiple times.
Yeah. Hey, when's this happening? When am I getting a new brother or sister?
Yeah.
Like, listen.
And now he's ready, right? He says, "Well, so
It's gonna take time.
come on,
Yeah,
I've made up my mind. I want both."
Like, crap, we
Exactly.
asked too soon.
So, which one am I getting first, guys? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Is it the boy, the girl, both at the same time? What's happening?
We're not. Oh, if
And
we ever have
I
twins,
had to have the same conversation with my older children because we were going to adopt Harry, right?
Yeah.
And so there's 20 years difference
Mhm.
between them, to my
Yeah.
last one, so between Randy, my very last child, and then Harry. And so when I suggested it, because I had a baby that was stillborn, and then I decided I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to try going the pregnancy route again. And then so we decided to adopt him. I said, "Well, what do you guys think?" And so they were all fine, except for they said, "We're just not babysitting."
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, so they said they're not babysitting. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's hilarious.
And that
Their
was funny
opinion
because
definitely
Harry
matters.
ended up being, I think he's like a year younger than my granddaughter. And when my daughter and I would go out to places and do things, we go to festivals and we do whatever, they would always think that Harry was her child, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
it got to the point where the kids, if they said anything, that one of the kids would say, "Don't say anything, it's too complicated." The kids would say that, "Don't say anything, it's too complicated." They just let it go. But it's funny.
Yeah.
So
We are also had a different conversation,
Mhm.
and this one is happening, and it now has a date on it. We're engaged.
Mhm. Congratulations.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Thank you.
But we finally set a date and ran it by Demarius, and he got very excited. So
Mhm.
he actually he was coming to have lunch with us at our work, and his grandma was getting him ready. He's like, she was like, "You got to get ready. We got to go." He goes, "To the wedding?" I'm like, no, not to the wedding. To go have lunch. But he was like, "Oh, okay." Like,
Yeah.
But we are eloping
Mhm.
with him.
Yeah.
He's coming with us. And we've set our date for August 19th
Mhm.
Oh, wonderful.
of this year. And we are going to be in Big Sur, California,
Mhm.
which is where we spent our first Valentine's Day together. So we're very excited to get ready to do that and go and get
Mhm.
married. And he is I have a best man for the reception because we're going to do a reception when we come back with like family and friends and everything. But
Mhm.
he is going to stand as my best man, and he's going to be wearing a matching tux to me.
He's gonna be so
So
cute.
he's very excited about all of that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But that was another conversation that I was like, okay, like he was there when I proposed, but he really didn't know what that meant.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
let's make sure he understands, making this official and a thing, and us as a family. And he was overjoyed. He was very excited about it, and that warmed my heart a lot to be like, great, this is an awesome idea and a good choice, and he loves it.
Well, and I feel like that was very tough for you because, obviously if he would have had a different reaction,
100%.
what are you supposed to do in that situation when you do love somebody and you bring them into your life and then
Yeah.
He didn't approve or something. So but I got very lucky, but
I got very lucky.
but I feel like that's a hard conversation for either parent to have too, just because you don't know how it's going to go. Even if you think like, oh, well, they love this person and they're with them every day, they could give you a totally different answer than what you think, especially depending on age. But it was very heartwarming.
Yeah.
That he answered the way he did, but it could have gone a totally different way, and that would have been even tougher.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, having tough conversations with your kids, you have a 50-50 chance of having a good time. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. You have a roll the dice and see what happens. But as a parent, if any parents out there are having to have those difficult conversations or anything like that, like we've all three of us have said, honesty is the best way to go. If you are honest, and they will respond better to it later in life.
And I think they'll have a lot more respect for you too.
Absolutely.
And be able to trust you because you were honest with them and you didn't withhold.
Absolutely.
Well, and the other thing is too, is the way he behaves, right? When you're telling him these things shows that you have a very strong family unit to start with. So now if he didn't behave that way and he became upset or whatever, then that causes you to think that, there's other conversations that need to take place.
Exactly.
We want our kids to understand that, life isn't easy, and we do have to kind of roll with the punches and we have to kind of work around them, but together that's what we're going to do. And so how they react, even if they react badly, if you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe you reacted like this, but then that means that there's more conversations you have to have. There's more
absolutely
understanding you have to have. Maybe you have to slow it down a little bit to let them catch up, because sometimes they haven't caught up to you with all the maybe the newness and all the new things that are happening in their lives. They haven't quite gotten to where you're at yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm very lucky that I have just a very happy child. That is one thing that I've strived to have, and make sure that he feels safe and comfortable and has a happy childhood. And that's hard to do for parents that are split up, because the kid doesn't understand fully sometimes. So a lot of the times with divorces and stuff, it's not the kid doesn't get what he wants or needs out of it. And I never wanted that for him. So I've always strived to make sure that I consult him in literally everything that I do, so that he is not blindsided or feels unwanted or unsafe. And in my opinion, that was the best choice that I could have made ever, was to have these hard conversations, regardless of what, the outcome may be. I had the conversation and we dealt with the outcome. And if you don't, a lot of things can go sideways as they grow, because if they don't feel like they can trust you, or like they don't feel like they have that connection where you feel like you felt good enough coming to them, as they age, that's going to happen, and you're going to see that. And I never wanted to have that with him. So I'm very lucky to have the child that I have and the future wife that I have who adores him and he adores. I'm very fortunate, and I'm thankful for it every single day.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think, Jacqueline, you've done a great job with making him feel that he's okay in this environment, that he's still, a lot of times when you have a new parent or new partner or someone like that coming into, the kids feel like they're getting squeezed out, right? They feel like they're a little lost. He obviously doesn't feel like that. And, and you've done a great job with making him not feel that way.
Thank you. So, I try. I think I also, I don't know. I've never had my own child, of course, so I don't really know. I didn't really know how to do what I'm doing. So that was also kind of tough because I've never having tough conversations in general is tough, but then having them with a child that you've never had to do that with, just like first parents, obviously, but he makes it very easy. He's the best kid ever. And I'm very lucky. And I think I'm lucky that I also got to be a part of his life while he's still so young, and I can make that impression on him instead of entering into his life where he's already had this very specific family dynamic and then all of a sudden it's totally changed. So I'm lucky I get to watch him grow up and be a part of that. And he just, yeah, like I said, he makes it very easy. So my job is not hard by any means, but it's important to have those conversations, and it's nice that Adam supports all of it and is very helpful, and we're a good little family unit.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think
sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like it. Because I mean, I know that, like when you start having a family, children, they're going to be your children, right?
Yeah.
And so and you've been letting Adam kind of take the lead on some of the issues. So some of that you might find a shift happening there,
Yeah.
that you then now become more of a,
Yes, very more
deciding
constant.
factor of things, because you have to do it because you have more than one child now. So
Right.
you have to do that. But it's making that adjustment. It's like, with my children, like I said, I have two that are adopted, but you wouldn't know it, unless I told you.
Exactly.
Because I don't feel any different towards either of them, and it just it makes no difference at all. And they although if you ask them, they'll say the other kid is spoiled. You're spoiled more than the other. They all say it.
Yeah, right.
Of course.
They all say that, but but they don't. I mean, I love them all, and they're just so unique in their own way. So and you'll see that when you have your next one. You'll see how different.
My next two, apparently.
No, next one.
Maybe it'll be twins.
Stop.
Those twins run in your family.
I
they
don't
get it
know.
over with right off the bat, man.
That's true. Just get it over with. Yeah, if it's gonna happen, it should happen that way.
That's right. Have twins, have a boy and a girl. That's it. You're done.
Yep, that's good.
I'm happy we did this show. I'm happy that we had these conversations. Like I said, it was a very hard time for me to process everything going on. But I plan on having her on more often. Specifically, either the next show or the show after, addressing bringing in another person to your child's life. I feel like that happens a lot, obviously, in the world, and I feel like it's a difficult thing to do at times. And the way we did it was probably not like the most conventional way, but we did it honestly and wholeheartedly and made sure that everybody was on the same page, and everybody was okay with it. So I kind of want to get her back on the show again for some insight on how she felt, and whether you're a dad who has a child and is bringing somebody in, or you are a person who is becoming a dad because your partner has somebody. I feel like there's a lot to be broken down and said there. So
there's a lot you can talk about, because dads going solo is about rebuilding your life. And so
absolutely,
we all hope that everyone will find a partner in their life and create a family and be very, very happy together. And so, but along with that, we know that there's issues and things that you have to face, and facing it together, of course, is always a good thing. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I definitely want to
Yeah.
have her back on the show and do something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
In
would be
the
great.
coming shows. We
Because
will
not
be
all
doing
stepmoms are wicked.
exactly,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
I believe we will be back not this coming Wednesday, but the Wednesday after
Mhm.
on our normal time. I apologize for that because I
No,
was
that's okay.
driving.
But I mean, you're
yesterday.
working and stuff. That's fine. Yeah. That's good.
Um,
But I think it's great to talk about these issues and things like
absolutely,
that.
absolutely.
Very relatable. Very
Oh, yeah.
relatable.
I know that I will be. I've been writing a lot more, so I will be. Sending Cece some blog posts to
Mhm.
hopefully go on to the new Dad's Going Bold website or
Mhm.
Dad's Going Solo website, and the Going Bold website, and then also I will be attempting by the end of this year to publish my own book of poetry. So I'll be doing that in the very near future. I have several written and several more that I have to work on, but I definitely want to. It's something I've always wanted to do, and I'm finally getting to do it. So I'm going to do it, and I want to make sure that I incorporate a lot of being a single dad or being a dad in general into those poems. And some of the more recent ones that I've written, I have done that, and I'm excited to hopefully publish it and get it out in the world. So look forward to that, everybody. Look forward to the Going Bold website coming soon here, and I know Cece's been hard at work at that. So look forward to that. That's going to be huge. Coming up later this year. So
yeah, we've got a lot of things happening. Got
a lot of different moving parts that I'm excited to see come together and see what we can do with them.
I think this was a really good show, and I'm sure that it helped, help people because some of those hard conversations, they're not easy, and there's many of them as we go through life, and you'll see as your son gets to be a teenager, it's like holy.
Don't say that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here at all.
Yet.
I want him to stay little forever.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah. So,
but yeah,
well, it was so nice being on the show with you guys. We're gonna have to close
thank
it
you,
out.
Cece.
So yeah,
absolutely.
So, until next time, Jacqueline, I hope we get to see you more often.
Yes,
absolutely.
Me too. I will be here. I promise.
And everybody, thank you for watching Dad's Going Solo on the WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. We hope that you tune into the plethora of shows that we have throughout the week that go on. One of my good buddies, Dr. Christopher Salute, he's doing his show, and he's been killing it recently, and I love it. So everybody should tune into that show too. That show's a lot of fun. So, but all the shows that that Cece has going on, definitely tune into those, and we will see you in a couple weeks, guys.
Sounds great. All right,
Thanks,
bye
Cece.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.